Weird News Weekly with Ben and Reid.
It is that time once again. Time for another episode of Weird News Weekly. My name is Ben Rogers and this guy's name is Reid Marnie. How's it going, Reid?
Ben, I'm doing pretty well, although I have to say I am rather confused because we are in summer, are we not?
Mm-hmm.
And the weather doesn't really feel like summer weather. I reckon we've had 2, maybe 3 days of plus 30 degree weather. And I'm really confused. It's really freaking my mind. I don't get it.
It kind of keeps just going up and down out of nowhere, really. Like one day it'll be like 21 and raining, and then the next day it's like, hey guys, 35, nice and sunny, enjoy it. And you're like, okay, cool. And then it's just like, nah, 22 again.
I have been described as an old man in a young man's body because I'm always talking about the weather. So I apologise for starting the show by talking about the weather, but that's what I do.
And if you are hearing any kind of blips and bloops and all that kind of stuff throughout the show as we go along today, we have been having a couple of connection difficulties. Every now and then we do one of these, we record a show and the Skype conversation just goes, no, don't want to play today, so we're just going to make it hard for you. We've already established a connection about 5 or 6 times already.
I've lost count.
Just to try and get this thing working. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we stay on deck this time around. You might hear a couple of kind of funny sounding voices every now and then, but we'll try and get through it as best as we can. But if you'd like to follow along the show, you can do so, of course, on Twitter, at Weird News Weekly on Twitter. You'll find all the links to the stories that we're talking about right throughout the show, all right there, so you can check them out yourself. As well as that, listening to and watching the show, you can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Soundcloud. Rate, review, and subscribe in all those platforms right there. And to see our smiling faces, jump onto YouTube, search Weird News Weekly, and you'll find all our weekly videos, the podcast in video form right there. But as far as stories for the week are concerned, Reid, what do you got for us?
Well, when it comes to complaints, Facebook is the place to go, and a woman has made a complaint to a zoo because she went and she was not entertained by what happened at the zoo. But this is what's funny. The zoo has fought back, and rather than apologise or not say anything, they've had quite a reply, a 3,000-word reply to this woman. So we'll find out why the zoo was so happy to reply to her message. And also, there's an interesting story about Google. Now, they're doing all kinds of updates all the time. It's hard to keep track with what they're doing with their app. Well, they've got a new one. It's all about traffic. It's trying to help you find the best park possible. Sign of the times for Google. So that's what I've got this week.
Okay.
What about you?
As far as my stories are concerned, I have a story about Nutella, which I'm not sure a lot of people will be too happy about because I think a lot of people really enjoy Nutella, and I could be bursting their bubble here because not a lot of people actually know what is in Nutella and the quantity of those things that are in Nutella. So we're going to go through that a little bit later on and kind of possibly spoil the whole hazelnut spread thing for people.
Oh, you're not going to do it, are you?
As well as that, I'm going to kick things off with a story about something that was big news in 2016, but it kind of died off really quickly there after a couple of months. You saw it kind of pop up every now and then in other countries when it was launched there as well. I'm talking, of course, of Pokemon Go, Reid. We haven't had a Pokemon Go story for quite some time, have we?
We have not. We have not. We had a few of these every week.
So it's official, the numbers are in, and as for 2016 revenue for Pokemon Go, they officially made an astounding $1.2 billion with the app alone.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa! Wow. Incredible.
So it's amazing how we can just kind of go from not having any Pokemon influence in our lives whatsoever, apart from the young kids who are still playing, like, you know, the games on their Nintendo DS and all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, the news pops up, Pokemon Go is going to be on your smartphones. You'll be able to play it anytime you like, out and about everywhere you go. It's like interacting with Pokemon in real life, but through your phone. Everyone seemed to jump on board, start spending up in this app, and like that, it's resulted in $1.2 billion worth of revenue for them. $1.2
billion in revenue. Wow.
It says
incredible.
It says here that the game rose in breathtaking fashion, reaching US $800 million in consumer spend in 110 days. By the end of 2016, the game reached over $950 million in a consumer spend, which is around Australian $1.2 billion. So that's a pretty big number right there.
I've got to say, I agree with the amount of people who don't play it anymore because when this app launched, it was huge. Like, everyone was talking about it. Everywhere you would go, everyone's playing it. I'm the same. I had the app. I was popular. I reckon I've still got the app on my phone. I reckon I haven't used it in 2 months.
Yeah. It's
on my phone, I haven't used it.
It's kind of funny how quickly people, really ditched this app, because it was going along great guns there for a while. It kind of stuck around for, what was it, about 3 or 4 months that it was in the headlines just constantly. And then all of a sudden it was just like, it was gone. Everyone was bored with it. They were done.
I think once people had captured all the Pokemon, they just didn't want to capture any more Pokemon.
Yeah. So it seems like there was kind of, a lot of that annoyance in with the whole thing. And people were just kind of like, well, if this is the only kind of stuff that I can catch without going up to Melbourne or Sydney or all that kind of stuff, these big metropolitan cities where you can, get all these different kinds of Pokemon, I'm being deprived because I'm out here in a suburban town. It's just kind of like, well, I'm just going to leave it alone and not play it anymore.
Yeah, I'm sort of curious as to like the hardcore fans of Pokemon Go, because as we all know, this sort of stems from the TV show, and the TV show has a lot of fans, as we all know. I reckon the hardcore fans of Pokemon Go probably still play it, but I reckon without the hardcore fans, the app won't get played ever.
Well, I know, for example, that there's an area just behind where I work in Ballarat. It's called Alfred Deakin Place, and it's like this big open area where people sit around and have their lunch and all that kind of stuff. But there's a couple of people who I see every now and then still sitting around the area where, like, that Alfred Deakin Place is. There must be, like, a gym or something there where they can train their Pokemon. So there's still always a couple of people who are always sitting on the steps playing Pokemon Go, and you walk past and they're just kind of sitting there by themselves, whereas previously there was a huge crowd there, and now it's just like 2 to 3 people, and you're just like, oh, guys, it just looks sad now.
So it's no longer going to be cool to play Pokemon Go. It's actually going to be like, oh, you're still playing that game? Really?
Yep.
Seriously? Move on.
So even though they've made $1.2 billion in revenue by the end of 2016, and that number is now rising still in 2017, as other countries are still quite enjoying playing the game, who haven't had it obviously as long as we have, it kind of makes you wonder what will they have to do next to get it kind of up and running again, because it's really just died and there's no sign of it coming back to life.
And I think you're right. I think half the battle with the app was that you actually had to go out into the real world to sort of play it. It's not like an app where you can play it, from your home and you can play the app. You actually have to go out into the world and play it. And plus, don't forget, when you were using the app, it uses your internet data. Mm-hmm. So that's chewing up a lot of your connection. And if you've lost interest in the game, well, chances are you're not going to play the game, really. So, yeah, they have to come up with something pretty spectacular, I reckon, if they're going to sort of repeat the Pokemon Go success.
I would love to know, for anyone listening, if you are still playing Pokemon Go, how dedicated you are still to this game. I don't reckon there's going to be many people out there who are still playing. I reckon there'd be a few, but I don't think there's any still, religious players like there were when it first kind of started. So let us know via Twitter if you like, at Weird News Weekly on Twitter. You'll find the details for this article right there. You can read through how they made $1.2 billion exactly, and I'll be waiting for you right there. But Reid, we move on to our next story. What do you got for us, mate?
Yeah, where's a place we always went to when we were kids growing up? Our parents would take us to a zoo. It was always sort of a place they'd take us to, and, we'd always have a good time. Well, over in Western Australia, our mother wasn't so happy with the experience that she went to. What's happened is our mother, by the name of Dana Harrison, took her little 2-year-old and 4-year-old girl, and also an au pair. Have you heard of an au pair?
No.
It's like, I think I've got a vague understanding of what an au pair is. It's like work experience kids who come with you, who sort of work on your farm or whatever, and they do it for some sort of fee. So it's some sort of government thing. Anyway, she went over to the zoo with her German au pair and her actual kids as well. And unfortunately, she didn't really have a good time. And of course, what do people do when they don't like the experience where they went to? They go to Facebook and they complain. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that usually these companies do is they usually apologise, or they usually will say, private messages and we'll talk further. Well, this isn't what happened in this case. What Dana did was she went onto the Facebook page of the zoo, the Perth Zoo, and she didn't really hold back. Now, they've got a couple of zoos from what I did a bit of research. This isn't sort of the main zoo, all right? It's called the Peel Zoo, spelled P-E-E-L,
Right.
a very bizarre name for a zoo. Now, what happened was she messaged the Facebook page, and this is what she wrote. She said she would never be returning. She said the feedback of the animals they were not there, and they finished looking at everything in an hour. It cost $50 for my 2 kids under 5 years old and my au pair to visit for an hour. It would have cost them less to visit the Perth Zoo. They were really looking forward to seeing the koala as the highlight, but even the koala was on holiday. But what I like about this is that the owner of the zoo, and it must be like some sort of really independent, small-time kind of zoo, because the owner of the zoo has actually messaged them publicly on the Facebook page reply, and this is what he said. He said, quote, "I consider it highly unlikely, nay impossible, for 2 kids under 5 years old to be capable of solving this equation. I also consider it impossible for a German au pair to solve the equation regardless of mathematical ability, because she would have no way of knowing the total number of animals in our collection." Now, the article reads, he went on to say that the zoo had 78 enclosures, and all but one of them was occupied with Sherman the wombat, moving that day to his new home in Brumby. And then he goes on to say, on the Facebook page, he says, quote, "You have simply jumped to a conclusion because it is convenient for you to do so. This enables you with a feeling of self-righteous indignation that you obviously enjoy. My own conclusion is to thank you for not returning to our zoo. I prefer serving more intelligent creatures." Wow.
My goodness.
And that's the owner of the zoo replying to this woman who didn't have a good experience.
I'm surprised he didn't end that whole passage with, boom, roasted.
Well, this is where the fun really begins, because this isn't the end of the exchange. Oh, no. Dana didn't take too kindly to his sort of pretentious reply. She said, quote, "I have no words. You seem to have taken them all." And then she said, "You are simply rude. You need an attitude adjustment." Well, David replied to that, and he went on to insist that she was a, quote, keyboard warrior. We've used that term quite a lot. And it said, and then he goes on to say, quote, "If it took them an hour, they spent 45 seconds per enclosure in that case, and they must have had some kind of wormhole to get from one to another." And then she says, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yes. She's going to jump to a conclusion and end a relationship without saying anything analytical or reasoned or well-balanced. I think he's an infidel, and I have a right to say, get back in your box. That's what he said to a journalist about this story. So, and the thing about this story, he has written a 3,000-word Facebook reply about this woman's experience. And he goes on to say, the old adage, the customer is always right, is absolute nonsense. And then what he did was he thanked the people who supported him, which apparently there was quite a lot. I had a look at the Facebook page. There's a lot of people agreeing with the owner of the zoo. Not the woman complaining about the kids not having a good experience. No. A lot of people actually supporting the owner of the zoo. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this story is because this is quite astounding for me, because usually when people complain on social media, the owners of the Facebook page, they might just say, look, we apologise, private message us and we'll talk privately. But this is all played out publicly. So everyone who is anyone can actually go onto the Facebook page of the Peel Zoo and see this whole exchange. It's quite remarkable.
There you go.
So this hasn't been exchanged from private messaging or anything. It's all publicly on their Facebook page for anyone to read. And the fact that he's taken the time to write a 3,000-word Facebook rant to this woman is quite remarkable. And we're not talking about a staff member. We're talking about the actual owner of the entire zoo. It's baffling.
I didn't even know you'd be able to write something that long on Facebook to start off with anyway.
I know. He must have just had some sort of extra special computer to be able to do so. I had to keep on. I was looking at it on my phone. I had to keep on scrolling just to go through all of the the paragraphs, because it was ongoing. I thought, I've never done this before on Facebook in my life. I've never had to keep on scrolling just to go through this guy's rant. It's really bizarre.
Now, kind of in her defense, but not really. Like, you know, a lot of people go to the zoo and the animals are, you know, asleep and they're hiding somewhere, or they're just, you know, not being all that active and whatever. And the reason for this is because a lot of these zoo animals are nocturnal, which means they're most active at night. So that's the best time to go and actually see them. But at the same time, none of the zoos are open at night. So you never get to see the animals in their, natural way of moving around and, going about their business, because it's always daylight when you go to the zoo and it's never nighttime. So they're not up doing their thing that they need to do. So maybe we need to have some nocturnal zoos where you can actually go and visit at night.
I think that's an interesting thing, because I know up in, I think it's Melbourne, or might have been, I remember I went to country Victoria many years ago when I was a little kid, and just went to this sort of, it wasn't a zoo as such, but it was like this beach sort of area with all these penguins would always come out, because apparently they slept during the day, but they were their most active at night. And we actually went there at like 11 o'clock at night just to see these penguins run around.
Yeah.
So I reckon people would do the same with zoos. If you open them up at night, like a twilight sort of thing, and have them all open night, I reckon people would go, we'd love it, and we could see them, like, as you said, in their natural habitat.
Yeah. Well, because even, for example, I went to a Zoo Twilights concert at up at the Melbourne Zoo one year. And it's basically a concert series they do every summer. They do it's on the big open grounds that they have at the Melbourne Zoo. And that big open area is basically right next door to the lion enclosure. So when you're there listening to the concert and all that kind of stuff, in between songs, you can actually hear the lions roaring and, going crazy with each other and having fun, because that's when they're actually being active and enjoying each other's company rather than just being asleep under a tree. And it's kind of like, oh, the zoo should be open like this more often so you can see these things.
The only reason I can't see the zoo opening at night is because of it will cost more to pay staff to be there at night. It's the only reason. Otherwise, people would go if it was the same during the day.
And patrons can cause more havoc in the dark.
Tell you what, when that sun goes down and that moon comes up, the zoos aren't the only creatures in the wild.
Exactly. But if you'd like to read more about this story, head to our Twitter account right now, at Weird News Weekly on Twitter. You'll find all the info you need right there. But Reid, I think we're going to spoil something for a lot of people right now. It's a hazelnut spread that many people are very fond of, by Ferrero. Of course, it's called Nutella. And not a lot of people seem to know what is actually in Nutella. They kind of think,
That's half the fun, though. It's half the fun. We don't care what's inside. We just get a spoon and we just dunk away.
They're just like it's a hazelnut spread. That's all we need to know. That's it. But it seems like Nutella could be more harmful to you than you actually realize, because it basically has 5 key ingredients. Just 5. That's basically it. 6 if you want to add water as well to make it a little bit, less thick. So basically what they've got here as ingredients is palm oil, skim milk powder, cocoa, crushed hazelnuts, and sugar. They're the core 5 ingredients of what makes up your Nutella. Now, basically the way that you go through it here is they've actually split it up into layers in this picture without them being mixed. So we'll post that photo up for you at the Twitter account and you'll be able to see that one right there. But basically what they're saying here is the first layer in the jar that you can see, it's the second highest ingredient in the jar, is palm oil. It takes up about 1/4 of the jar of Nutella. That's a lot of palm oil.
Wow, that is a lot.
So, and apparently just last week, the European Food Safety Authority claimed that palm oil was more of a carcinogenic than any other oil and could actually lead to cancer.
Whoa, gee.
Now, Ferrero, the company behind Nutella, has denied these claims. They're saying their oil is of the highest quality and safe for consumption. So I don't know who you believe in this whole situation here. But underneath the oil sits a slither of skim milk powder, cocoa, and crushed hazelnuts, which altogether account for another 1/4 of the jar. And then finally, you have what makes up the other half of the jar. A full half of the jar is just sugar alone.
I sort of suspected for a while there was a lot of sugar, but that's a lot.
So when you look at a jar of Nutella, it's got palm oil, skim milk powder, cocoa, and crushed hazelnuts. Those are 4 of the 5 key ingredients in Nutella, and they make up only half of the jar. One ingredient makes up the other half of the jar, and that's just sugar alone.
Wow. It's incredible, isn't it?
It really kind of makes you worry about all the Nutella you might have consumed over the years. And you're just kind of like, oh my goodness, that was a lot of palm oil and sugar. Oh my God.
Like, what have I done with my life? I've eaten so much of this stuff. What have I done?
Well, because even when you look at things like palm oil, for example, and even palm sugar and stuff like that, a lot of people see those as things that you shouldn't be eating because they do a lot of harm to the planet, a lot of harm to animals and things like that, and you shouldn't be consuming these things because it's seen as morally wrong, I guess. But it's one of the key ingredients in Nutella, so I wonder if people will stop eating Nutella because of this reason, if you're like a vegetarian or something like that, and you're like, no, can't hurt the animals.
The fun police will not win. They will not have their way. I will still be going to a jar of Nutella with a spoon and dunking it and eating it the best way possible. You're not going to win, fun police.
Well, yeah, because we had the Nutella pop-up stores that have been happening. All these little different things get made into Nutella. Even over Christmas, for example, at the Maya stores around Australia, you could get a Nutella jar with a personalised label with your name or your nickname or something on there instead of the word Nutella. And it was seen as a big novelty thing, and I'm sure many people would have just ripped open the jar on Christmas Day, taken the lid off, and then just had a big old spoonful of Nutella and shoved it in their gob. And it was actually quite a costly process to get that done. My fiance actually got it done, and you go into Maya, you pay for your jar of Nutella first, and then you take it over to the labeling area where the girl puts the label on it with, the name that you've selected to have on there. So the jar already costs more than it would cost you at a supermarket, for example, because they're not buying in bulk like a supermarket would, so they jack the price up of the jar a little bit, and then you're paying for the label that goes on top as well. It ends up being, I think, around $16 for the medium-sized jar of Nutella with your label on there.
$16.
Yeah,
jeez,
it's ridiculous.
People love their Nutella, but that's a bit much.
And now that I mention that, the funny thing is they're actually also doing this with Vegemite now as well through Kmart.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
How is that? How bizarre.
I don't know why people would want a personalised Vegemite jar. Like, I've never, even though there's been all these different changes to the Vegemite jar labels and stuff over the years, as long as I can see that it says Vegemite on there and not like Eatermite or, one of those other dodgy ones, I'm fine. It's like, yeah, give me the Vegemite. Don't care what the label looks like. Just give it to me now.
No one is taken to a Vegemite with a bit of a spoon and putting it all in their mouth. It's all about the Nutella. They don't care about the Vegemite. It's a bit tangy. It's all about the chocolate, the hazelnut spread with a lot of sugar.
Actually, there was this video thing going around on Twitter there for a little while. I've seen this happen, with Nutella and stuff like that, as far as you put a big spoonful of Nutella in your mouth and then try and call someone and, try and get a sensible conversation out of them, even though you got this big glob of Nutella in your mouth and you can't talk properly. But there was this other video thing going around with Vegemite all over Twitter, and it was like something about eating your Vegemite like a man or something like that. And basically all these people were just taking videos of themselves getting a spoonful of Vegemite out of the jar and just eating a teaspoon of Vegemite straight up.
Oh, no. No.
But I think it was one of those things.
Some food to be going with it.
I think it was one of those things where we were trying to convince Americans that this is how you eat Vegemite. So they see all those videos and then go, oh, okay, let's go and try some Vegemite. They take a big spoonful and they're just like, oh man, what the hell is this crap?
I like that idea as a prank, though. That's a very good idea for a prank with Vegemite. I'm all for that, but no, I wouldn't be the guinea pig to actually go with the spoon and eat all the Vegemite. Ugh.
So
it's good in small doses.
So hopefully we haven't spoiled Nutella for people too much. Just going through the key 5 ingredients there once again. You've got palm oil, skim milk powder, cocoa, and crushed hazelnuts. That makes up half the jar. The rest of the other half is just all sugar, my friends. That's all you're consuming, basically. A little bit of water in there as well, just to mix it all together, and I think that's about it.
Do you reckon anyone's eating Nutella and thinking, gee, I've eaten a year's worth of palm oil today, but I'm going to keep on doing it with this jar of Nutella? No one's eating Nutella and thinking, oh, it's a lot of palm oil, but it's so worth it.
No. It's the same.
No one's curious.
It's the same as when you when that whole thing came out of like McDonald's soft serve is made up solely out of pig fat and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like, oh yep, but that's still good pig fat. Love that pig fat. So people didn't care if there was like a good percentage of pig fat inside their soft serve ice cream. They were still just like, yeah, but that's good pig fat. Good lord.
As long as it's 50 cents or $1 nowadays for the soft serve, people don't care.
Exactly.
It tastes good. It's cheap. It's McDonald's. It's all good.
If you want to check out the picture and the article that goes along with it, head to our Twitter account right now, at Weird News Weekly on Twitter, and you'll find all the details you need right there. Reid, on to our final story of the week. What do you got for us, mate?
Well, one thing that a lot of people are doing for this time of year is very busy with shopping, and we've just come through the busiest of time. We're still going through it a little bit to a certain extent with the whole shopping. We've had Boxing Day, and the sales continue. And one thing people struggle to do during that whole time is to get a car park. I don't know why people bother. You can just do shopping online. Do they not know of this little thing? I mean, I do everything online nowadays. It's bizarre why people would go into a shop to get it when you can get it online.
Exactly.
Anyway, I struggle on. Well, what a company is doing is trying to help people get a car park, and not just any company, the biggest company in the world, Google. Google Maps, very popular app indeed. I've got it, and a lot of people do have it. Well, one thing they're trying to do is they're trying to help you get a car park, and there's no real method for how they're doing it. It's just if they know the area, if you put in your coordinates and let's say you're going to a shopping centre, it'll basically tell you if it's busy or not busy to get a car park. Now, it's only available at the moment on Android, now on a beta version of Google, so it's not sort of rolled out onto the system. Now, how it's done is the probability of finding a spot is either deemed to be easy, medium, or limited. So it sort of lets you know the actual chance of finding a car park. So a lot of people aren't too happy with this feature because it's not really accurate at all. It's just basically saying on a busy day, you might get a car park. On a not so busy day, you might get a car park. So they are trying to stress, though, that it is a beta version. So they're trying to work out all the kinks to it. But I've got a feeling they've got a long way to go for this one because I like the initiative, but they're not the only sort of app who are trialling this sort of idea. Up in Melbourne, there's a few apps which are trialling available car spots. A few car park companies are trialling this sort of technology. So this is sort of the way of the future for car parking. No longer will you sort of have to go driving around aimlessly looking for a car park like we all do on a Saturday morning. No, they're trialling to let you know through technology where the best place is to get a car park. And this is sort of the way of the future now for car parks.
I guess it's kind of the next step up from being able to reserve a park somewhere. There's a lot of parking structures up in Melbourne where, like, down here in Geelong, for example, we can say, okay, we're travelling up to Melbourne for an event. How do we guarantee that we actually get a park? Oh, look, we can actually reserve ourselves a park at this particular parking garage. And so on top of that comes this service kind of, which takes it to the next level of going, okay, you're pretty much guaranteed to get yourself a park if you go here and you don't have to book it, doesn't cost you any money, good stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea because for what I remember, the only way to really guarantee getting a car park is to follow people as soon as they come out of shopping centres in your car, following them, saying, oh, they're getting out. They're getting out. No, they're not. They're just sitting in their car waiting for the driver to come back. No. So that's sort of the only way to guarantee to get a car park nowadays. But it's created a lot of dramas. These sort of because I remember even in Geelong, I think it was last year, where there was a free car park or an available car park. A guy was standing in the middle of this car spot. Meanwhile, another car has come by thinking, great, car spot. But the guy in the car park said, no, I'm waiting for my friend to come back. This is not your spot. And of course, what happened? A bit of biffo.
Hey.
A bit of old bargy. And I thought, all that just for a freaking car park. Seriously? Yeah. That's what you're doing with your lives? Come on, people. It's just a car spot.
There was even a time late last year where it was like kind of the start of December, but it was a big kind of sale day in town. So we went into the city just to grab a couple of things. Like, we weren't going to stay in there for overly long. We knew it was going to be horrendous trying to find a park, but we just thought we'd go in anyway. We ended up right on the very top level of the Market Square car park. And when I say top level, I mean like right at the very top tier, like that little roundabout bit there at the top.
Oh, yeah.
And a lady came out of the elevator and she walked straight to her car right outside the door, just where that roundabout bit is at the top there. And we were just like, oh, cool. We'll just wait for her to jump back into her car and drive off. I'll just sit here for a moment until she leaves. And so we're sitting there. She's putting stuff into the boot of her car. We're sitting there. We're sitting there. We're still sitting there. She's taking her sweet-ass time getting this stuff out of her trolley and putting it into her car. Knew that we were sitting there the whole time waiting for her. And then she's closed the boot of her car, looked at us and gone, oh, sorry, I'm not going anywhere. And then walked back into the shopping centre. And I was like, I was sitting here for 5 minutes waiting for you to put your stuff in your car, and you knew that I was there the whole time. And you've gone now, when you're walking back into the shopping centre, now you've decided to turn around and go, oh, sorry, I'm not going anywhere. You could have done that 5 minutes ago. I would have driven somewhere else.
You see, this is why people hate people.
Yeah.
Because of incidents like this. Oh, how annoyed would you be? I mean, I hate situations like that. And to be confronted in an actual life situation, I don't know how you kept you calm through that. I would be going mental, going crazy.
I think, from memory, I actually did kind of look at her and give her one of those, are you serious? kind of looks. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, jump on the video and you'll see that exactly what that expression was there. She would have got the gist of what I was going on about for sure.
Oh, for sure. So, look, this is exactly why I do not like parking in these busy periods, because people aren't their usual selves for whatever reason. You get in behind a car and trying to find a car park, they turn into weird car park freaks. So, yeah, I always park as far away as possible, way out into the suburb, and I'll walk in just so I can avoid weird parking situations like you experienced with the weird woman who just wouldn't get out of her car.
Exactly. If you want to read more about this, Google helping you find a park in your city or wherever it is. Jump on the Twitter account. You'll find more details right there at Weird News Weekly on Twitter. But Reid, that pretty much wraps things up for another week of the show. We had some flippity-bips and bloop-bloops here and there, but I'll go through as best I can and edit a lot of those out. People who are listening to the podcast right now, you might not even realise that they're there. You might get a couple of them, you might think, hey, they didn't do too bad. But trust me, there were a lot of them. So I've taken them out, and it's probably been a real kind of pain in the butt to edit. But
it's sort of weird because we're sort of letting people know that we've made mistakes. Usually people would actually not acknowledge it at all and say, what are you talking about? We made no mistakes at all. But we're actually letting people know we make mistakes, so what?
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird though, going like saying at the end of it, because of my seamless editing skills, you wouldn't have known that there was any kind of breaks throughout this entire podcast. But trust me, they're there.
Oh yeah. I make Ben work very, very hard during the weekend to make sure it's all up and dandy.
So before we sign off, Reid, any final thoughts about anything we talked about for this week?
Maybe not for this week, but maybe from last week. Not sure if you spoke about getting some T-shirts, because remember you said you got some T-shirts. Well, I'm looking at the one you're wearing right now. I'm pretty sure that's the same one you wore last week.
It is. Yeah, it's the same T-shirt.
You're wearing the same one on me twice in a row.
Because I've got two of each, they kind of fill up my wardrobe, and I have more of like a lesser rotation of getting like different colours, I guess. So, you know, I'm always kind of wearing 2 red ones in a row or 2 blue ones in a row or whatever. And
I tell you what, you're lucky I'm not Amber Sherlock. Otherwise, we'd be having some talks right about now about wearing the same colour T-shirt.
You can't be wearing that. What are you doing?
I'm wearing black though, so it's okay. Well, a side note, a tangent. She's back working. They're back working as if nothing's happened.
Yep.
They're both not on the same show, but they're both working away as if nothing has happened. Oh, yeah, right.
I guess though, if people are watching the video version of the show, me in this T-shirt and Reid just in a black T-shirt as he is most of the time with a different band logo on there, it would basically look like we recorded this episode last week right after the other episode that we recorded. Trust me, we didn't do that. This one's been a lot harder to get through than last week's was.
I'll get today's paper of the Herald Sun to put it up against the camera to let people know. We're recording it different weeks, people. It's okay.
Exactly. But if you want to follow along with the show, of course, you can do so at Weird News Weekly on Twitter. You'll find all our source articles right there, so you can check them out for yourself and see all the inner workings of other things that we're talking about. Also, of course, listening to the show, iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Rate, review, and subscribe in all those areas. Watch us on YouTube as well with the video version of the show. Just search for Weird News Weekly in all those spots and you will find us right there. But that is another week of the show all said and done. I've been Ben Rogers. This guy has been Reid Marnie, and we'll catch you next time. See you, bye. And that is it.
Oof.
My God.
How do we get through that? We got there in the end, though.
Oh, wow. It took us a while, but we did it. We did it.